Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by Sean Keenan.
Heidi says, let's join us!
And, of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and you should see what it looks like when I do those JCVD splits.
Oh, all you got to do is electrocute that floor, and he just gets a hopping, kids. Oh, my goodness. Well, we are here, everybody, this week to review Timecop. That's right. It's a comic, yet another one of those in the long, long line of things that are comic book movies that you may not have realized are actual comic book movies. And that's why we're here, man, to impart some wisdom, some knowledge, make your life a little bit brighter. I don't know if this movie's the movie to do it, but I mean, that's the goal, I guess.
Generally, if you see produced by Dark Horse Comics, you don't know the property.
Yeah, exactly. It's just called, well, we showed up, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. Speaking of showing up, I love the people that go over to patreon.com/HMP and help us out and support the show and everything. Not only do you get the pre and post show for everything, you also get to vote on one of the movies that we watch per month. This month, we're off to a hot start here, man. Here are the choices. We got Hercules 2014, Oblivion 2013, Death of the Incredible Hulk from 1990, and Dark Man 2. And currently, Oblivion is actually in the number 1 spot right now. So,
wow, that's surprising.
It is.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Well, not to tip my hat, but I've seen it. We could do a lot worse. Actually, I think all of these are pretty.
Is Oblivion the one with Will Smith or the one with Tom Cruise?
This is Tom Cruise.
Okay, I haven't seen that one. I saw the Will Smith one.
Oh, you don't want to see that one. That's the one you're thinking with him and his kid. Boy, yeah. Oh boy, am I glad that's not a comic book movie, man. We reviewed that in the Film Find, and oh my goodness, if you want to talk about a turd, that's a Jason Todd all day long. That's a Dick Grayson, or what's his shucks from
Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah, that's a Chris O'Donnell. Is that one, boy? Woo, bottom of the barrel. But Oblivion,
Shyamalan directed that one too, right?
That is correct. And Will Smith just he pulls a Bruce Willis and he just sits for 3/4 of the movie.
I love that. That's a new thing.
It's just I'm just gonna be sitting during this. Hope y'all don't mind. While this kid goes out. Kid goes out, pretends to emote against a green screen. It's pretty bad. The Shyamalan getting into Blumhouse, best thing that ever happened to that guy. But
for sure.
Good stuff for him. So, if you'd like to help vote on that movie, if you like Oblivion, or hey, maybe if you like one of the other ones, head on down to patreon.com/HMP. Even if you donate at the $1 level, man, you'll still get to vote and all the other cool stuff. So check that out, man. We really appreciate that, and I especially appreciate that because I'm going to be moving and I need a little bread. So help out. But thank you to all of you fine people that help do that. We really appreciate you folks. So with that said, everybody, like we said, we're doing Timecop today, and why don't we go ahead and take a listen to that there trailer.
How you doing, partner?
Ex-partner.
Let me go, Max. I'm not hurting anybody.
Got to take you back.
In the year 2004, time travel is a reality.
You are charged with violations of TEC Code 40.8, time travel with intent to alter the future.
And a crime.
It turns out going back in time is a pretty easy way to make money.
I think you got yourself a shipment of gold and you're taking to General Lee.
The genie is already out of the bottle. The technology is there.
Now, one man
You ever hear the name Aaron McComb?
is about to take the ultimate power trip.
He's gonna be president.
You don't need the press, you don't need endorsements, you don't even need the truth. You need money.
But to enforce the laws of time,
Are we still together in 10 years? Am I dead?
one man is determined to stop him.
I cannot go back to save her. This scumbag is not going back to steal money.
Stay here, Walker. My future, you're dead.
I think you planned too far ahead.
Jean-Claude Van Damme, Ron Silver,
Will you get him?
Mia Sara,
All right, that was a trailer for Timecop. And let me tell you, man, 1994 trailers, they don't get much better than that. Here's the IMDb plotline. Max Walker, an officer for a security agency that regulates time travel, must fend for his life against a shady politician who's intent on changing the past to control the future. This is directed by Peter Hames, starring one Jean-Claude Van Damme, Mia Sara, Ron Silver, Bruce McGill, and more. Let's go to it because, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Timecop is indeed based upon a comic book, and I don't know what comic book that is, but my guess is our boy Bruce Leslie has a little bit of the inside poop. What do you got, Bruce?
No intro music?
Oh, shucks. Hold on. I was doing so well on the stuff, and you, dang it. All right, fine.
It's time for Bruce's comic book connection.
I had such good pattern.
Oh, man, I was paralyzed in fear. I didn't know whether I should talk yet or not. I didn't want the intro to start over my intro.
That's fair enough.
It's only the first time this year.
Hey,
but it's early.
Yeah, well, you know, let's. Hey, there's a whole lot more year left, kids. Don't worry.
Well, Mike Richardson wrote a 3-part story titled Timecop, A Man Out of Time. And I hope that the listeners recognize that name because we talked about him, maybe a month or so ago. Because Mike Richardson is the founder of Dark Horse Comics and the creator of The Mask. Now, when it comes to Timecop, Richardson developed the story, but the comic was actually written by a guy named Mark Verheiden and drawn by Ron Randall. And the plot of The Man Out of Time and the Timecop film, well, they're very different plots, but they do share the same protagonist, a guy named Max Walker. Now, the original story involves the main character catching an illegal time traveler robbing a South African mine of a huge diamond in the 1930s. After his capture and return, however, Walker is soon made aware that the criminal's personal robot bodyguard is still operational in the past and wreaking havoc on the timeline. To restore order, Walker must return to the diamond mine and stop the machine's malfunctioning rampage. And I have to say, that sounds way more interesting to me than the movie we got. It sounds way more interesting than Jean-Claude Van Damme going back in time to fight a rampaging robot. That sounds a lot better with more action potential than trying to interfere with the abuse of political fundraising regulations. I don't know. Well, just to hedge their bets, Dark Horse went ahead and published a 2-issue tie-in comic that had all the intrigue of political fundraising to coincide with the movie's release.
Ooh.
Now, if you're one of the folks lucky enough to have a copy of Timecop movie adaptation comic #1, you'll be happy to know that its value is estimated to be a cool $3.
Ooh.
That's a full 50 cents above cover price. So take care of that little treasure. Now, I think it's no surprise that the character of Walker looks very much like Jean-Claude Van Damme in the movie adaptation comic, but it's driving me to the ever-loving brink of insanity that I can't find any images from the original 3 appearances in Dark Horse Comics Presents from any of the things before the movie deal. I have searched exhaustively, and by that I mean I Googled it and checked the first page of results, and I can't find what Max Walker should have looked like. But I'm pretty sure it involves futuristic sunglasses. Yes, futuristic sunglasses were sort of 90s shorthand for we want this to have a Blade Runner feel, but with action. Well, the movie ran its course, and so did the comic. That is, until 2003, when cries for a sequel grew so deafening that Hollywood could not ignore them and gave the world Timecop 2, a direct-to-video film without Jean-Claude Van Damme. Dark Horse Comics had to take a hard stance about the possibility of a comic and said, no Mussels from Brussels, then no dice. And the world was denied any more graphic adventures from temporal law enforcement. But there's still hope for a Timecop 3 someday to feature Jean-Claude Van Damme once again. This would be a meta story where Jean-Claude Van Damme plays himself and has to go back in time to 1997 to prevent Double Team, the only action karate movie to co-star Dennis Rodman, from being made. I think Jean-Claude Van Damme has proven he has the right sense of humor to make a movie like this, and I'll venture to gamble that Rodman's looking for something to do, considering the last time he made the news, it was for palling around with a notorious dictator. But then again, it's probably faulty logic to suggest that the solution for a movie starring Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dennis Rodman is more movies starring Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dennis Rodman. So let's just skip to the review.
I'm going to update you on that Rodman. He is most recently actually just checked into rehab.
What?
Potato.
That's a true story.
He's got a substance abuse problem. I would not have guessed that.
Yeah.
No, he went to awesomeness rehab. He's worried he's addicted to being awesome.
I gotta get rid of all this awesomeness on me. Ugh, it's stanking up the apartment, man. Get it off. I don't need it no more.
Jordan never had to go to awesomeness rehab.
We know that Pippin sure didn't. That's right, Scottie Pippen. I got your number.
Wow. Bringing the Pippin heat.
Imagine Pippin and Portrais on the playground, seeing out who's the best.
Ooh, I'd take you, Pippin. Big giant nose.
He might have the vertical leap, but I was really good at Foursquare.
He was not Foursquare. Holy cow. As we were talking a little bit in the pre-show, which you can get at patreon.com/HMP, none of us had actually seen Timecop before. I remember seeing that trailer a whole bunch because they showed the split in the kitchen. That was like the main. That was like the big shot in the trailer that they showed all the time. Because I don't know what you know, but Van Damme, he liked the splits.
Man, and I was a pretty hardcore Van Damme fan for a short period of time. It was an intense love affair that burned too brightly because it burnt out quickly. And I was off of the love affair with JCVD by the time this movie came out. But man, I saw more movies in the theater than most people realize Van Damme movies went to the theater. Like, he kind of seems like a straight-to-video dude.
Like so many of the movies, like, hey, there was a time there, like really from about 88 to around 95, where he was just like constantly in stuff, just constantly. And there was the movies. John
Woo directed movie, man. I saw that one in the theater with all the doves.
Yeah. There
was the one where he played his own twin brother, and there was one with hockey, I think. Wasn't there one that involved hockey?
Yeah, it was Die Hard in a hockey rink.
And then I saw, of course, Universal Soldier in the movie theater. You had to see that in the movie theater.
I think they kicked you out of life if you didn't.
Yeah.
Is that why things went so poorly for me?
You just
didn't
have it right?
And if you want to pull the curtain way back, in 1993, I went and saw Hard Target in a movie theater in Hazard, Kentucky, and actually picked up a chick from inside the movie theater in a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. So that can just tell you how weird my life was in 93.
That's awesome.
I see Bruce pulling on up going.
And she was not a gem that you pick up at the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
I see you like John Woo movies as well. Hello. This is bizarre.
Did she look like Mia Sara?
Not in the least.
No.
But she did have more than a passing resemblance to Willem Dafoe.
She looked a little bit more like Michael Cera, but that's neither here nor there.
She had the quirky beauty of Willem Dafoe when he's dressed as a woman in Boondock Saints.
Hello. It's everyone's dream. But yeah, I'll be honest. I thought this thing was, now granted, I thought it was far more futuristic, especially when you look at the poster, when you hear the name and everything. You're like, oh my gosh, we must be going into the way future. 2004.
And I love these movies, man. I love these movies that have something in the not so distant future that they just throw weird futuristic elements into it, and they all like they overestimate some areas, but then they totally miss the point on more simple things. I mean, the easiest one to point to for me that everybody can relate to is like Back to the Future 2 in 2015, when they have like the amazing hologram at the movie theater for Jaws 13 or whatever that is.
19.
Yet they still don't have cell phones. You know, it's kind of cool to see where they way overestimated and where they totally missed the mark.
But they had like video phones and stuff like that. But no, here's what, like, the worst future thing. Now, the smart thing is, especially because this is 1994, you're not going too awful far into the future, so you really don't need to do too much different, right?
Yeah.
But the big thing is, and you only really see it at the end, but this isn't a spoiler, but we do spoil everything just for those of you that are new. He drives home in his car and everything, and the car is the worst piece of garbage I've ever seen as far as somebody designing something. It looks
it's awful.
It is.
The self-driving car.
Clearly what they have done is that it is something that has been put onto a golf cart.
Yeah.
That is exactly what it is.
Just a giant plastic mess.
It's awful. It's great in how awful it is.
I love it that they thought we would have moved beyond driving our own cars, but these movies always seem to think that cathode ray tubes is going to be like television technology forever.
These will be here until the end of time. It's just like it's
because they're always
1994.
CRT TV, CRT computer monitors.
Yeah.
So good. The other thing that I really like is that in the future, everyone will have a mullet.
Oh
yeah. Well, that that's what we can all aspire to.
What goes around comes around, says I.
I'm looking forward to the return of the mullet because I had a glorious one once upon a time.
Not a surprise. Not a surprise coming.
Oh, I'm just like tanned and rested, rubbing my hands together, waiting for the comeback.
So, one of the things that I've noticed about this movie, like just general thoughts on this movie, is that anytime because the movie is interesting at points, but it's always interesting when Van Damme isn't around, like anything with Silver is awesome. Mia Sara, oh my word.
Were you guys shocked she was in this? Like I knew nothing. I just hit play, on the old Amazon Video or whatever. And as soon as she shows up, I thought, whoa, slow down a minute. Is this Sloane? Is this Sloane from Ferris Bueller? This lady looks just like Sloane. And then I had to pause the movie, look it up, and it was her.
Yeah.
And I thought, what an interesting career where you kind of made two movies. One was Ferris Bueller's Days Off, and the other was Timecop.
Well, she's also got a third thing, which is she was in the sequel to Gone with the Wind. She was.
And who amongst us hasn't, after we got through with, the original, we're just like, boy, what happens next?
I need more.
Was it as thrilling as we all had imagined?
Well, I never saw it.
What?
That movie was not made for me. Although a huge Mia Sara fan, so I was like on the fence about it. Like, do I really want to see Mia Sara that much? And so I just watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off again.
Oh.
And this is also one of those weird movies. Like, I don't know that my cognitive state in the early 90s was such that I can remember the details purely. But was there a time where, like, movies wanted to be rated R? Because this has the most, like, useless tacked-on nudity in two spots to the level that there's no way this is going to get less than an R rating. But I'm so used to lately how they try their best to cut everything back to PG-13. But this movie's like, I see Van Damme saying, okay, it's good, but where is the breast? We need the breast.
First of all, I like how it goes. Like, it starts out very Tommy Wiseau, to where we get a lot of the old Stallone butt action going on. So
yes,
for sure.
He
I
gave as good as he got.
Movie,
that guy.
If this movie did not heavily impact Tommy Wiseau when I was watching it.
There is a whole lot of Van Damme's butt in this movie.
Well, that was like look back at his no pun, a body of work. There's a lot of his butt in a lot of his movies, tons of it.
Well, sure.
Now, are we getting real Mia Sara chowder buckets, or do you think that's a body double?
No way, that's her real. That's real. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because they're not perfect breasts, so it's not something where it's like, oh wow, like amazing.
Oh man, I hope Mia Sara doesn't listen to this podcast and hear Sean describe her breasts as not perfect.
Yes, so.
Because that 52-year-old lady would be very unhappy with that.
I think we're going to be okay.
But you know whose cups are the best though? Bruce McGill. Oh
yeah.
Who doesn't? Come on, show me a red-blooded American person who doesn't love Bruce McGill. I'll show you a communist.
Now, this was the highest-grossing movie that Jean-Claude Van Damme ever made.
Really?
Yeah. Now, did people were the people that made this movie? Did they really think they were making something like Terminator quality, or did they really think they were making like a good movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, they thought they were making a good movie.
Because, man, it definitely feels like it doesn't deserve the box office it got.
Here's the thing, man. Again, you got to remember, this is 94. This is pretty peak Van Damme.
Yeah,
Not only that, but you're in a time where, like, remember, like Schwarzenegger is in all these movies because he's such a weird human being in the first place. Where like he's in Total Recall, he's in these like high-minded action movies, and so Van Damme, like this is his first foray into that because Van Damme is just a weird person in the first place. Also. Yeah. But there's, the difference between Schwarzenegger and Van Damme is that you don't look at a Van Damme movie and go like, oh, well, that's adorable. Like you do with Schwarzenegger before we knew, all the backlog of horrible things he had done in his personal life. But at the time, Kindergarten Cop, it was like, well, that's just adorable. But you're not going to see Van Damme playing Kindergarten Cop.
It's just, this is the same year as The Mask. And production quality between this movie and The Mask, and they're both, from Dark Horse Studios in a way, but the production quality is just such a huge gap. I mean, this really feels like it had a direct-to-video budget to it. How ludicrous the futuristic cars look. The production value seems so low to me that they honestly thought they were making a good movie and that it got the $100 million box office. Just I can't wrap my head around it.
Well, it had, I believe it was like $21 million for its budget. So not like super low, but certainly not like, super high when, you got like Jurassic Park's like $63 million. So it's, that's a bit of a difference. But, so it's not that high, but it's not like garbage low.
And the other thing to this is that you're spending so much money on this movie on like explosions and stunts. Whereas with The Mask, you have Carrie, so you can spend it on wardrobe. You don't have to do nearly as much CGI, like things like that. Whereas I don't think there was a single bit of CGI in this movie, though.
Oh yeah, I mean, you got all the warping effects and stuff like that.
Yeah, you did have the warp when they traveled through time.
That's right, which is a good effect. I like that effect.
Yeah, and honestly, the falling out the window, the green screen's not as bad as it could be. Let's be honest about that.
It definitely had a little bit of a feel to it, like what was the movie with Knifey again that Sean liked so much?
Oh, The Shadow. Oh,
it kind of had a little bit of a shadow feel to it when they're falling out of the window.
This movie could have used a little Knifey.
Yes, it could have, man. It definitely could have, but.
Because it's a knife, and at the end of the knife, it's got a face with sharp teeth.
Now, something I thought that was clever about this movie is the way that they handled their time traveling device. Because there's different types of time machines in different movies, and this one, though it totally was nonsensical in some ways, was very different than anything we've seen before. And I also like it. They took sort of the Loopers approach to, we're not even going to dare try to discuss physics other than to say a few simple things, like one, matter can't occupy the same place at the same time or whatever. And then other than that, we just have a wall that you might get splattered against. Like, what's the purpose of the wall at the end of this rocket sled runway? Like I would think
it's clearly to cause death.
Yeah, I can't think of what it contributes to the whole physics of the situation other than just somebody was really pissed off on the day they built it.
If that's where they're going to end up, that's where. If they ain't gone by then, they're gone by now. I'll tell you that much. Oh, by the way, and
I do like. Go ahead.
The shadow budget's just about the same on this thing, so that's why they about look like the same movies because their budget's the same.
Well, Van Damme also probably had a bigger paycheck.
Same year and everything. So there you go.
What a crazy thought that is. The year when JCVD was demanding more money than Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, that's how it goes. But yeah, you're right. But I wish they would have explained something because so much of it, they'll go off. They're in this kind of, for lack of a better word, rocket ship, headed straight for this time portal thing. They go through, and then they're just like half the time they're either like we see in the first scene, he just walks right on up in. He kind of phases in to the scene upstairs, or in other times he's still in the ship with the girl. It's like there's no rhyme or reason to any of this crap.
Into the water.
Yeah, like they're for no apparent reason they're just launched into the waterfront in DC. Then another time it decides to launch him in front of an 18-wheeler, which I think was a cool scene, to be honest with you, but it didn't make sense. And then they have the little box with the red button that brings them back. How come they don't just make that box work both ways?
It's really bizarre. And this is one of those things where, they did not get anybody to sit down and think out the logic of how this time travel works other than just time travel. How about you shut up?
But I do like the idea that there was a wall for what we can only say are absolutely arbitrary purposes that has blood splattered on it that nobody bothered to clean off.
Well, not only that, but they take great pride in it too. Like, hey, look what happened over there.
Yeah, they pointed out in those go like, you remember earlier when so and so and so and so hit the bricks. That's what they look like there. Don't do that, by the by. What? Okay. And like, that's not going to freak that chick out anymore.
The good joke where like, man, there's a certain aesthetic to these kind of action movies in the 90s and 80s where you can't just subtly say that one guy's more experienced and the other person's a newbie. The new person, the heart rate is going to like 400 beats per minute, and they have to say something like, I think what they say is, if she farts, her head will explode. Meanwhile, how's Walker doing? You couldn't even tell he was awake if I didn't know it. You know what I mean? It's like
somebody better shake him to make sure he's still awake.
He's chewing his stick of Beemans like Chuck Yeager getting ready to break the sound barrier and being super cool while she's having a mini seizure in the back there.
And they do nothing to soothe her at all.
The sled, I think, has to get to 88 miles an hour before it hits the wall.
Oh, I wish that were true.
It doesn't go that fast, though. Like, it doesn't have a lot of space to build up, yet it still has the rocket boosters on the end. It's like, it looks like it's just a death trap. And I love the arbitrary lights that just go everywhere.
Oh man, it's so great.
It's so awesome.
You know what it reminds me of is Battlestar Galactica, like the old TV show Battlestar Galactica, where they're getting shot out of the chutes. Like, that's what it reminded me of.
Dirk Benedict era Starbucks.
Yeah, buddy, that's the stuff.
But
I'm sorry, Bruce. Go ahead.
But anyway, the flames flying out of the back was cool. It's like they got to do something because they didn't have any good ideas, so they went with spectacle, which I can admire. And it is a different kind of take on time travel than I think we've ever seen.
For a movie on time travel, also, a whole lot of barrels in this movie. Did you notice that? Like, there's so many. Like, this movie is lousy with barrels. They're everywhere in this movie. To the point where I was like, guys, it's okay to be in an empty warehouse sometimes.
And then also arbitrarily, like when they get dumped out into the waterfront in D.C., when they go back to 1994 and they're climbing out of the water, the lady, Agent Fielding, is clearly not wearing a bra under her T-shirt.
Okay.
And I can't think of any good reason for that. Like,
because
I can
bras
understand
don't go
maybe
well
George
through
Lucas saying there's no underwear in space to Carrie Fisher, but what are we supposed to believe people stopped wearing bras in the year 2004? I mean, it's so weird. It's like, that there was a creep on set that told her she had to not wear it, even though it doesn't play into the story at all.
Now, there was this whole sub bit where it's just like the underwire. You can't even go in there if you got fillings. They won't let you.
I feel like there's a whole lot on the cutting room floor that explains some of the weird stuff. I also believe at some point, I swear, at some point there was a B plot where that house was haunted. Because, man, that blue house where Jean-Claude Van Damme and Mia Sara live, everything about it looks like a haunted house movie should have been filmed in that house.
You are absolutely right. It's like an old farmhouse where like Timecop, who also fights ghosts.
Like, it's not just the exterior either. The internal stuff is lit entirely by candlelight. The thing desperately needs paint on the inside. There's no story reason to explain it other than like they were going to have a ghost show up or something too. Like, he had to travel through time to save his wife from the poltergeist.
Listen, guys, when the Amityville house goes on sale, it's usually at a rock bottom price.
There's so many moments in this movie though where there's just so much kicking. There's so much kicking also where like it makes no sense why he would kick someone in this in this situation. The guy who robs robs that old lady, and he just puts his leg out for no reason. Good God Almighty!
Because that was
I had a nickel for every time I saw a rollerblading perch snatcher at the mall. I got it.
Honest to goodness, though,
but here's the thing: as a one-time diehard Jean-Claude Van Damme fan, I agree that for a normal movie, there's way too much kicking. But for a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, one of my complaints is there's not enough kicking. That's kind of what the guy can do, It's like you go to a Fred Astaire movie and there's not much dancing in it. You're like, what in the world?
It is the same.
Gene Kelly kicks it up, and so does Jean-Claude Van Damme. Watch out, kids.
So, the So are we going to get into the plot of this thing?
Sure, why not, man? Go ahead. Walk us through the presidential plot.
Right. So as far as I can understand it, so Ron Silver is a junior senator when we first meet him, when the time machine is first built, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he gets, so the part I guess I'm not understanding is, so does old Ron Silver visit young Ron Silver at the beginning of the movie, and that's why he knows so much more than everyone else, even at the beginning of the movie, like at that meeting?
Yeah, because it's the old Ron Silver that sent the people back that killed his wife at the beginning of the movie.
Okay. So that is already in place. So the time there are time loops in this thing. It's just not consistent time loops. Like when it works for the plot, that's when there is a time loop.
It's not like what you would call the best director.
Okay. So so let me see if I get this right then. Okay. Because that was the only question I had. So Ron Silver is a junior senator who gets visited by Ron Silver 10 years in the future, where he is running for president, and tells him, hey, you need to get in on this Timecop or machine thing, because we can go in the past and exploit it by stealing a whole bunch of gold, and we can take it to the future, and it can pay for our presidential election. Well, so it's literally just to pay for the election.
But he's in the room in 1994 though to begin with, when in the first scene there where the dude comes in and lays down that like literally the discovery of time travel. He's in the room then, so he hears it from once everyone figures out what it is.
And we've got a good old-fashioned bootstrap paradox that I kind of like when they're done in more capable hands. But we get the bootstrap paradox where I infer that Jean-Claude Van Damme doesn't become a time cop if his wife lives, because the reason he becomes a time cop is he has no connections to worry about. You can't threaten his family because his family are dead, but his family never would have died if he hadn't become a time cop. So I like a good old-fashioned bootstrap paradox, but boy, do they fumble the handoff on that one.
They do, because what you just described is 1,000 times more interesting than watching barrels explode as he's walking through a warehouse.
And I also want to say, off the top of my head, I can't think of any time travel movies that I don't like until I saw this one, because I wasn't super thrilled with the time travel aspects of it. Like, you could have just called this regular cop instead of time cop and almost told the same story, like everything that works.
The movie called Regular Cop.
Instead of time cop, because honestly the time travel aspects don't add that much to the story. And I don't know, can you guys think of any bad time travel movies that I might have seen? I mean, I'm sure there are probably some bad ones out there, but I haven't watched them. But this might be as far as the time travel aspects are concerned, this might be the least interesting handling of time travel I've ever seen. It's definitely no Looper, it's no Back to the Future, it's no Bill and Ted.
Well, I would say to you, as we said on the pre-show, which, by the way, you can listen to if you go to patreon.com, the pre-show, that movie is also awful. Free Jack is awful.
I haven't seen it, though.
Timeline in 2003. Some people like it. I didn't care for it.
What was it?
Timeline.
I don't think I've seen that.
Timeline is awful. Timeline is so bad.
I haven't seen that one, but I have seen Primer.
It's Primer's great.
Yeah.
But just from the historical aspect, Bruce, you're going to rip out your hair watching Timeline. It will make you so mad.
I think the only way to make a bad time travel movie is to not really like time travel that much, and then I ask, why are you making the movie in the first place?
Hot Tub Time Machine 2. That one sucked. I'm trying to think.
That?
Hot Tub Time Machine 2. The first one was good. The second one stunk.
Okay, I'll grant you that I haven't seen the bad ones.
A Time to Kill. Wait a minute, that wasn't.
But I mean, it's all you have to do to make a decent time travel movie is just pick one or two interesting things to emphasize, and this movie sort of fails to do that. Also, like the guy that robs the Confederates with the gold, like he should have at least shown up as a lackey later on. Like he just completely disappears.
Yeah, and also where like I can't tell with this movie, like didn't he kill that guy already? Like there's a lot of of people who look the same even in this movie.
Well, to be honest, in an older Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, it wouldn't be above the production to have the same actor play multiple thugs that get killed in different scenes. Just, you got the guy who's the stunt man who can do it. So you just put him in a different hat. Same guy, different hat, gets killed again.
They can't all be Bloodsport, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, man. Which is sad because Bloodsport's not that hard to do. But there is a formula that works for Jean-Claude Van Damme. For some reason, he has to fight in a tournament. Like, that works really well. It was good for Lionheart. It was good for Kickboxer. It was good for Bloodsport. When he starts fighting time travelers and cyborgs and universal soldiers, it falls apart.
It's about time he goes into something else, because it's just like, oh, I bet he's going to reluctantly get into some sort of tournament he's going to win at the end.
That would be awesome if he had to go back in time to fight in the first Kumite. Then that would have been an awesome movie.
Okay, now you've got me on board.
That would be awesome.
Here's one thing, though, that seems
fighting the same guy
over and over again. One thing that looked way better than it should have, from my point of view, like considering this movie and what this movie is, one part that's way too good to be in this movie is when future Ron Silver meets 1994 Ron Silver. Man, he really plays those parts with the subtle differences that just sell it so good, man. Like way better than any other like new versus old in this movie.
Ron Silver was a great actor. I mean, he's good in almost everything he did.
Yeah.
I really liked him in that Vin Diesel movie where Vin Diesel had to be a lawyer.
Well,
Find Me Guilty? Wow, what a pull.
Yeah, that's it. Find Me Guilty. He was good in that.
Pull.
He played the judge.
What a weird pull from you, sir. What a weird pull. The
man's got 87 credits. He pulls that one. Find Me Guilty. What in the world?
It was slightly better than Reversal of Fortune.
Takes place in Connecticut. Right. So Ron Silver is he has that one great line too in this movie where he goes, "You should get that fixed." The cut in his face, so great.
I also love it when he talks to his younger self and says, "And for one thing, please lay off the candy bars, would you?"
Now let's talk. Since we're talking about people seeing their future and past selves here and everything, let's talk about how these people are just all got to be the most moronic idiots in the entire world. Now, here's the thing. If all of a sudden I turn around and I see a slightly older looking version of Sean Keenan, I'm not going to go, "Who are you? Where are you from?" I'm not going to be very confused. He's going to look an awful lot like Sean Keenan, just slightly older. And in this particular case, all it is a mullet. If I saw Sean with a mullet, I wouldn't go, "Who are you, strange being person from another universe? I don't know you." I would know who it is because I'm not stupid.
I'd say, take off the stupid wig, Sean. You're not fooling anybody.
Everyone else in this thing looks at someone else and just goes, no, how could this be? What's going on here? I don't buy it. I don't buy that you're the man that I'm married to, and I can see your face is plain as day. How dumb do you gotta be?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And
dumb enough to take a role in the remake or the sequel to Gone with the Wind.
Yeah,
it's like you taking a beloved classic and say, let's spit on that for a while.
Like making a sequel to Hamlet.
I will say that seeing Mia Sara is an amazing experience. I love Mia Sara so much. Not a whole lot to do with this movie, of course, but it's just such a nice surprise to see her. You know, when there's so little to recommend this movie in the first place. Sorry about that. To recommend this movie in the first place. Like at least Mia Sara's in it. Ron Silver and Mia Sara are in this movie, and they're great.
And man, the thing that puzzled me, if you're Ron Silver and you figured out this great scam to get billions of dollars, why do you even want to spend it to be president? Like, isn't the reason to be president so you can be crooked and make more money? I mean, why not cut out the middleman? Why even bother being president if you figured out the secret to being a bajillionaire?
He's like, then I can evade taxes. It's like, listen, I don't know what your thought process is, but it's not a wise one, dude.
Yeah. The last thing I would want to do is deal with being president if I could be independently wealthy through nefarious time travel schemes that involved buying stocks on the day the market crashed.
Whoa. Let's see if I could go to a job where there's a lot of bureaucracy and I only make about $450,000 a year. That sounds like a great plan, you guys. How stupid are you?
Nobody ever asks questions about the murky source of unlimited wealth for a politician.
Yeah. They just kind of go, whatever.
But here's the real question that our listeners want to know is if we were Ron Silver. So, Sean, if you could go back 10 years to 2008, what would you tell the Sean Keenan in 2008? What advice would you give yourself? Would it just be lay off the candy bars or would it be something else? Because I think I know what I would tell Bruce 10 years ago.
10 years ago? 10 years ago.
Oh, Sean, he just found caved in on himself and did a like he saw himself in the future. It was just like
he divided by zero, man.
Oh my
God. Come up with something.
Well, I know what I would do. First off, I would ask myself to turn around because I've always kind of been curious what my own backside looks like. Especially 10 years ago when I was probably a little nicer than now. And then second off, I would probably say, hey, man, no matter how much you think you want to, don't buy a motorcycle and use a stage name. Bye.
Can a man admire his own back porch? What's wrong with you people?
Nice. Number one, nice mullet. Number two, turn around.
Hey.
I was rocking the world's only 2008 mullet.
Yeah, I was about to say, there's no way you had a mullet in 2000.
No, it was more just longer, but no mullet. What about you, Adam?
It was a
10-year ago, young Adam advice.
It's going to take you 10 years to figure out what you're just about to do. You better do it now and save yourself 10 years, dummy. Move.
And don't buy a motorcycle because I'd be with you and I'd go ahead and give you
don't buy
advice.
a motorcycle because Bruce said so.
No matter how bad you think you want it, don't buy a motorcycle. Use a stage name. I got to go because I don't want to turn into a monster.
A monster. That's what you think it happens?
So any advice, man, for young Sean?
Invest in Bitcoin.
Hey. You only need about 5 years ago for that, and you'd be set.
But other than that, because my personal growth has to do with my own decisions, which weren't bad decisions at the time. So I don't have the thing where I was like, wow, that was a really bad decision from 10 years ago.
And see, I only learned from bad decisions.
Go ahead and sell your Beanie Babies. The value's not going to go up in the next 10 years.
But I wasn't into Beanie Babies. I didn't have any of that.
Wait till they get to the top of the market.
Honestly, I made good moves by that point. I wasn't doing stupid things at that point.
You could tell yourself the plot to Ready Player One, so you could write it before Klein did.
There you go. That's a good idea.
Man, every single thing you've ever paid attention to that people told you is worthless to know, write a book about that.
Done and done. Well,
I don't have it.
Well, man, they do give us a real good Chekhov's gun with the whole matter can't occupy the same place at the same time. And somebody says, oh, it's never happened before. And they do understand that basic rule of storytelling because I've seen movies of this quality where something like that is set up and never paid off. So I was glad they did pay that off.
Well, at least they did that. But, I mean, come on, man. I mean, they mention it 5 times in the movie.
So imagine how perplexing it would be if nothing ever came of it.
That would be
because there are movies like that out there that don't understand Chekhov's gun.
Well, you have said that you watched a lot of Van Damme movies when you were younger. So
yeah. The only way to defeat him is to hit him in the Adam's apple, and then at the end he's defeated by being hit in the knee. I've seen movies where that happens.
A lot of those were those 80s movies, man. So
there's a cut where somebody, a Canon film in particular, there is a cut where the movie played out like it should, but then I don't know, Menachem Golem came in and didn't like the way it looked, so he just changed it all in a day, and that was it.
Let's get to the flipperoo, the switcheroo, where Fielding. It turns out Fielding is one of the bad guys. We meet her, and literally 3 minutes later, it's a turn.
My partner of 10 minutes.
I can't believe it. We've been partners for less than 3 minutes, and this is
for
epic.
negative 10 years if you look at it a certain way.
Very true. Very true.
I think the first hint should have been that she didn't wear a bra back in time.
Don't wear a bra.
This says a lot about your character, and I don't care for it. It feels like you're going to, you turned on me. Darn it.
And I felt like the story about Bobby, her first paramour, Bobby, is not nearly as clever or interesting as the people who wrote the movie seem to think it is. Like, it comes up about
really
they think that's great.
And, you know, I hate to point out the flaw in their whole, like, I can appreciate a good bootstrap paradox, but I can't appreciate pure nonsense where we see her die and then without explanation she's alive at the end. We see the house, even in the final timeline, we see the house explode from C4, and yet when he comes back to 2004 it's still there.
Yes.
Like, there's some pretty big flaws. Like, I could see somebody, if there's a person who's so lacking of anything better to do that they want to defend the time travel philosophy of Timecop, they could kind of argue that when the two Silvers melded together, then that means that that Fielding was never a traitor in the first place, so she never could come back to be murdered. But she gets murdered in the same timeline where they push the two McCombs together, and we see the house blow up after McComb has been destroyed. So destroying McComb couldn't have stopped the house from blowing up, but apparently there's a really, really good contractor in the neighborhood that fixes it up as if nothing ever happened.
Right.
And see, this is where you got movies like Time Crimes, which do like a great job with back and forth and all that kind of stuff, and how that affects things. But there's stuff like this that just goes, you know, that he knows about time travel. So it's not like him coming from the future to see himself will be all that super, super shocking to him. It's not like he's just going to discover that he knows time travel. He already knows it. He does it for a living. So you'll be able to explain this to him, but no. Keep your 1994 self in the dark as much as you possibly can and pretend like that guy can't help you. You wouldn't have two Jean-Claude Van Dammes in your timeline instead of just one. You know yourself well enough to know that you're going to obey the rules. You're not going to touch each other, but you're going to get the job done. But no. Don't talk to him. Don't let him know that you're there. What a load of junk.
I like the idea that this movie was made by semi-incompetent filmmakers.
Yes, I do too.
I like the idea that they built the house and then blew it up for the intro. Then they're like, okay, we got to rebuild it again for the scenes where he comes back in time. Then they blew it up a second time. They're like, okay, now we got to build it again for the happy ending. Like, I like the world where they didn't understand how to film it properly out of sequence so that they only had to blow the house up once. I like the idea of completely rebuilding it 3 times to make this movie. And that's where like $10 million of the budget went.
But the guy just had a good run. He just does, like, you know, the director, he also did Outland. Outland, everybody. Come on.
Hey, he also was a producer on Monster Squad, which is a movie I like.
But he also did, like, End of Days and stuff, and, you know, Capricorn. So, yeah, look, they all can't be winners.
And
they're not all going to be Bloodsport, man.
No.
I think his son might have directed a different Van Damme movie, but I can't remember which one now. I feel like it was one of the 2 Universal Soldier sequels. Because there are 3 Universal Soldier movies, all with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Really?
Yeah, and they're all spaced out like it's like 93, 2003, and 2013.
Wow.
And Dolph Lundgren's in the 3rd and 1st.
Good old Dolph.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and Cyborg was like a recycled Spider-Man script in some weird way.
Listen, the Van Damme career is it's varied, it's many, but the sad thing is his I think it was Amazon show or something just got canceled. Poor guy.
Yeah,
oh,
just
really?
got canceled after 1 season.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
One and done. Sorry, I don't think they advertised it well, to be honest, because I didn't know about it until it was pretty much gone.
Hey, some folks thought he should have been considered for an Oscar for that JCVD movie that I haven't seen, but I've heard good things about.
I've seen it, and that's overblown.
Is it?
It's a good movie, and it's surprising because Jean-Claude Van Damme's the lead in it, but it's it is a good movie. It's not great,
but you don't look at that and go like, "Ooh, there's a gold statue in that man's future." You just go, he's not acting like a complete idiot.
I think my favorite thing about Jean-Claude Van Damme is when I lived in Wesley Chapel down there outside of Charlotte, the guy that lived 2 houses down from me had a French accent and a black belt, and at one point had convinced his son that he used to be Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh man, that's so great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
it was
so
glorious.
Great.
Yeah, glorious. I tried to do that. I tried to convince my kids I was the other guy from Tenacious D, but it never stuck.
Kyle Gass.
Yeah,
Daddy, you've got a full head of hair. That's a bunch of jive.
Yeah, I wore one of those wigs that make you look bald back then, kids.
But the bald wigs. Who was it you tried to convince your kids that you were in, Sean?
Oh yeah, my biggest long con of all time. When my kids were little, I used to make dinner, and when I made dinner, I would play music. And every time the Jackson 5 would come on, I would tell my kids, "Oh, this is me and my friends when we were little. We wrote songs, and this is who we were." And so
I love
it got to the point where when they got a little bit older, meaning like 7 and 8 years old, they would hear the Jackson 5, and they'd be like, "Oh, Dad, this is you and your friends, right?" And I go, "Yeah, yep, that's us. That's what we did when we were young." And so the plan was I wanted them to be driving around with their friends, as teenagers or even adults, and the Jackson 5 would come on, and then they go, "Oh, this is my dad and his friends when they were little." And that's exactly what happened.
I love it. I love everything about that story.
It is the greatest long con I've ever done. My kids to this day are so angry with me that I did that. They're like, "You made us look like idiots. We look like idiots."
So keep that under your hat there. I know we have a lot of parents that listen to the show. Keep that under your hat. Use something like that with your kids. Make sure it's just believable enough, but surely wild enough at the same time too. To one day also make your kids look at the fool. It's hilarious.
Right, because the reason why it works is because when my kids were little, I was on TV all the time. So it wasn't out of the realm of possibility that yes, me and my friends went to a recording studio as children and then recorded all these songs. Like, it wasn't out of the realm of possibility, because when they're 3 and 4 years old, they're watching TV and they'd be like bored to death of like, "Dad, you're on TV again," like that stuff. and so to have that other thing was not unbelievable. It was something where it made sense to their little brains at the time that this person that doesn't sound anything like me, but I was a child.
I'm just going to tell people that millions upon millions of people listen to this show every single week, and not it's just I'm going to just embellish what I've already got there. It's been like, "Oh yeah, we were known all over the place, man. Oh, it was I could barely walk down the street." See, you don't even have to like really kind of play that one out. You can just kind of lie and just go, "There's no one that can call you on it."
I've spent the last 12 years convincing my children I'm deathly afraid of penguins. And I'll be honest, it gets hard sometimes to keep up the facade.
Oh, you're doing yourself a disfavor, man. That Madagascar Penguins movie, quite funny.
Oh, now every year for Christmas or for their birthdays, they always get at least one like stuffed penguin or one like penguin, like little Funko style penguin. They always get something penguin themed that they can chase me around with.
Oh, that's so cute, man. Good job by you.
Get them away, flightless birds. I can't stand them. I can't stand them.
Penguins have really hideous teeth. Just Google it sometime.
Really?
You'll understand the fear.
I would not have known. Penguin teeth.
Yeah, just Google penguin teeth sometime.
Well, we'll certainly Google penguin teeth here, but while we're doing that, we need to ask ourselves how this movie relates back to our good friend Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Jean-Claude Van Damme was born Jean-Claude Camille Francois Van Varenberg in Brussels, Belgium. And before we go any further talking about Van Damme facts, why don't you all gather around, kids? Let me tell you a story. Because old Sean's about to spin you a yarn. I once dated a girl who lied about everything all the time. All this is true, by the way. I once dated a girl who I once dated a girl. Where am I? I once dated a girl who lied about everything all the time, but every so often she'd sneak in something that wasn't a lie just to keep me guessing, just enough truth to give me moments of doubt. It was like dating a bag of snakes, because I like the visual of a bag of snakes and metaphors that involve snakes. It was totally okay because I was also a massive liar. We just lie to each other over little things, big things, stupid things that make no sense to lie about. And it was as awful as you can imagine. Just two lying liars lying, being terrible to each other. The whole situation sucked more than a suck machine set to maximum suck. The reason why I bring this up to you is that because if you try looking up Van Damme facts on the internet, the same thing happens. And you find yourself caught in a massive snake pit of unsubstantiated rumors, and this guy knows a guy who said. It's some grade A prime choice horse crap, and it reminds me of the bad old days. So here's what I can tell you about Jean-Claude that I'm pretty ding-dong dang sure is true. 1, he's European. 2, he had a problem with drugs in the past, and he still might, but I didn't make the man pee into a cup in front of me, so I don't know for sure. 3, he used to work with Chuck Norris. Yeah. 4, at the time of this podcast, he's 57 years old. And 5, he's pretty good at kicking people. He started his film career in a 1979 movie called Woman Between Wolf and Dog, which was clearly written by a dude who got hurt by a lady. But his next credit is the movie Breakin', where he plays uncredited spectator in first dance sequence. And if you haven't seen it, please stop listening to this recording, go to YouTube, and watch it immediately. If you ever feel like there's no joy in the world, you'll see how wrong you are, because this is magnificent. Van Damme had a Stallone-esque career in the fact that he doesn't make a lot of good movies, but he does keep making them. He makes them a lot. Have you ever heard of the movie Welcome to the Jungle, The Shepherd, Second Command? Me neither, but Van Damme is the star of all of them. And there's a lot more where that came from. But he's also in Kung Fu Panda, JCVD. He plays the villain in Expendables 2, which also stars a person who went to the University of Miami, which sounds like a lie, but is not, Sylvester Stallone. Expendables 2 is considered the best of the 3 Expendables movie, but how do you choose? It's like choosing your favorite CNC Music Factory album or your favorite flavor of squirt gum. It's damn near impossible. The most notable thing about Expendables 2 is the sheer amount of people who turned down being in it. Nicolas Cage, John Travolta, Donnie Yen, Jackie Chan, Charlie Sheen, Mickey Rourke, and even comic book legend Chuck Dixon was asked to do a rewrite of the script from Stallone himself. But Chuck Dixon said, Stallone, never being one to give up or recognize context clues, went forward with the project anyway and made the movie that many dumb people believe to be the best movie in the Expendables franchise. Did Van Damme's amazing acting prowess have something to do with that? Probably. And there you have it, HMPers, this week's Stallone connection. Now, Alex and Chad Wagner, the identical twin roles Van Damme plays in the movie Double Impact. Let's review Timecop. It's like RoboCop, but with time.
I want to be
now in Expendables 2, Jean-Claude Van Damme's character was named Jean Villain.
Yes.
And there was talk in Expendables 3 of having him play his twin brother Claude Villain, but it didn't happen.
Straight from Bruce. What can I tell you?
No, this is all true, man. I'm not making this up.
I am very sure that's true.
But hey, look, I'll say this. The Expendables movie's not good, but the second one, the first opening 15 minutes of that are better than all the first Expendable. But then all of a sudden Jet Li's like, well, bye, everybody. And I'm like, wait a minute, why are you leaving? You're one of the best people in this movie. Oh, that's a shame. Anyways,
I haven't seen the third one.
I haven't either, therefore we shouldn't. But you know what we should do? We should get down to the old patented Robin rating system here. If you want to check that out, go to facebook.com/YourMoviePodcast. It's right there at the top of the screen. Why don't you hit that button, man? We would really appreciate it. Bruce, where does Timecop from 1994 fall on the Robin rating system for you, sir?
Well, I'm going to share a couple of other people's reviews. The first one is Richard Harrington of the Washington Post, who said, for once, Van Damme's accent is easier to understand than the plot. And then on a more positive note, on Rotten Tomatoes, the site says, it's no Terminator, but for those willing to suspend disbelief and rational thought, Timecop provides limited sci-fi action rewards. So for me, I give it a Stephanie Brown. I'd say that it's like my 5th or 6th favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
All right, that's a weird way to do everything, John.
I knew what we were getting into with this movie. I knew it was not going to be, the greatest movie ever made about a guy who's kicking people while traveling through time. But it's not. It's fun. If it's the best way I could describe it. It's insulting to your intelligence, yes, but it's fun also. So for me, it's a Stephanie Brown. This movie is not wonderful by any means, but it's also not the worst thing we've seen. It's not the worst thing we've seen this year. Stephanie Brown.
All right. And while I go through mine, you guys can check out the picture of this penguin I sent you. Holy crap, you're right, Bruce. Those teeth are insane.
They are frightening.
So I
also sent you to your phone another penguin picture that's even scarier.
Oh, no. So with me, I would sit there and say, this one's, again, I think I'm like Sean, where I knew where this thing was going. I knew it was not going to be great. It is what it is. It's 1994. It's Van Damme being Van Damme. And I still had a little bit of fun with it, as bad as it is. And don't get me wrong, this is not a good movie. It is a bad movie. But I'm going a very low Damian Wayne on this. It's still stupid and fun enough that if you like this kind of era and this sort of, schlocky movie, and you like looking at all the plot holes and laughing at Ron Silver just kind of chewing on scenery and stuff, you could have a worse time. And Bruce McGill, come on, Bruce McGill. So that's it, everybody. That's our show for this week, man. And next week, like I said at the top of the show, we have our Patreon folks. They're battling it out right now. Oblivion's in the lead. But as of now, who knows? Who's to say? You're to say, actually. So go to patreon.com/HMP and vote there for what we're watching, and then we'll watch that next week. What do you say, kids? That sound like a good idea? I think it certainly does. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
Just want to remind people about Nerd Spawn Genesis and let them know that our friend Marty in the UK likes it. And here's what he had to say about it. He said, if you're a fan of podcasts, Comic-Cons, geek lifestyle, or just good fun books, then you're in for a treat. This book follows the adventures of 3 mild-mannered podcasters out to defend truth, justice, and the honor of film memorabilia, hounded by bullies but helped by the unlikeliest of allies. Full of in-jokes for the fans of Hero Movie Podcast, but easily accessible to newcomers, too. The only downside, I wish I'd read this sooner. So, folks, go check out Nerd Spawn Genesis on Amazon. $2.99 for the ebook, $7.99 for the paperback. Enrolled in Kindle Unlimited, so subscribers to that service can read for free. You can't go wrong with Nerd Spawn.
And Bruce, I'm looking at this penguin thing, and there's so much that's scary about this, from the teeth to the other stuff that looks like other stuff. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Sean.
I have a movie that's at Sundance that I worked on last year.
So get out to Park City, kids.
So if you're at Sundance, please check out American Animals, which is, from what I'm understanding, the darling of Sundance this year.
That's what I saw. It's getting it's got a lot of good buzz going on it.
Is that the Evan Peters film?
Yes.
Perfect.
And it was such a joy to work on. It's the best movie experience I've had in a good many years. It was the best thing I've worked on in 4 or 5 years. And it was such a joy, and everybody was great to work with. So check out American Animals if you get the chance.
Chances are you'll probably get it not too long, because the way people are talking, that thing's going to be scooped up by somebody near to very soon.
I think it's about to win the award, too, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And of course, the filmfind.com. We're taking a week off. Matt's super busy and stuff, but we may be doing some other stuff fairly soon over there. And hey, we may get me and Matt in the same room to do some podcasts. So you have even better audio quality, and maybe one of us chokes the other one out when we get angry. It happens. So check that out. Filmfind.com, everybody. So that is it. Join us next week when we talk about the Patreon selection of the month. For Sean, Keenan, Bruce, Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Barney and Evie.